Hi, and welcome to Service Dog Webinar, Is This Service Dog Right for Me? My name is Christy May. I am the founder and CEO of Legend Acres and Legends Heroes. And what I want to talk to you about today is a service dog right for me? We get a lot of phone calls and questions about service dogs. A lot of times those conversations rise because a doctor has mentioned to you or to a family member that a service dog might be good for you. And I want to go over what does those next steps look like and some things to consider when you're considering getting a service dog. So in traditional service dog settings, dogs are bred for specific temperaments, and they are trained as soon as their eyes start to open. And some of the scent dogs actually start doing scent detection while their eyes are still closed. And so that training starts very much at the beginning. And that training usually lasts anywhere from 1 to 2 years, where then you are placed with an appropriate dog. They do an interview process, and then you work with that dog and that trainer for 2 weeks, and then you go home, and then there's follow-up sessions. And there's some other things that you have to do to complete their training program. And what we do here at Legend Acres is a little bit different. And what we do is you already have the dog, and then we train you, the handler, how to train your dog and the process that goes through. Now, there's some considerations in when selecting a service dog. If you're going to be doing mobility work with the dog, then we do require that the dog be 55 pounds or larger, just so that their body frame can support weight-bearing activities. And where the ADA is not clear on specifications, where the specifications come from that we use is through Assistance Dogs International. And what the Assistance Dog International has done is that as an organization, they have come in and filled in the gaps where the ADA is either vague or does not have any recommendations. And we're going to talk about the ADA here in just a little bit and where that applies as well in that. But finding the right dog, okay? But not only is it finding the right dog, but it's the bond with that dog. That's going to be the important piece here in being able to move forward. And then can the dog physically do these tasks that we're asking them to do? Another thing to consider in getting a service dog is that if you have anxiety in public places, bringing in a service dog actually attracts more attention to yourself. And that is something that you need to consider is, are you going to be able to handle those situations and be able to talk to people in those situations? Because you're going to be approached and you're going to be asked questions. And legally, you have to answer those questions if you're approached by someone who is responsible for that business. For example, if you're in a grocery store, the Fry's has a policy that if you go into the grocery store and you're into an area of the grocery store where food is uncovered, such as like in the deli where there's open cases and there's not doors, then they are required to ask you if your dog is a service dog and what tasks they perform. If they do not, and one of their supervisors sees that happening, that could be a health code violation for them. And so there are some considerations that you need to think about in moving forward with a service dog. The other thing that there's a lot of misconception about is that service dogs are not 100% accurate, and they do not provide a replacement for healthcare or medical devices or for care. For example, if the task list is more than 2 to 3 long and it really has to do with something where a person or a caretaker is going to have to be backup on that, that's perfectly fine, but then there needs to be that healthcare backup. And so a service dog isn't necessarily always a do-all, end-all, especially with physical limitations, because then we're requiring on a third-party handler to be able to assist with the service dog. And so those are some considerations that need to be put in place, especially also for work accommodations, school accommodations, and those type of things. Because again, a lot of attention comes around a dog in public places, especially when it's out of context. Even though the dog is labeled and even though the dog is working, there is still going to be that that attention that is going to be there. And so if that is an unwanted attention, that is something that you really need to consider in moving forward with a service dog. And the other thing with the service dog as well is going to be the cost and the care of a service dog. There's a lot of misconceptions out there and a lot of misinformation on the internet about service dogs. And there is especially one about service dogs and veterans. And a veteran who is 100% disabled does not mean that they qualify for a service dog. A service dog is still going to be prescribed to perform specific tasks. And that can come from any provider. It doesn't have to come from primary care. It can come from a specialty. That can come from anywhere where we get that note and that list of tasks that that dog is going to perform. And also then on that note is that we do require a doctor's note with a task list. Now, that is not required under ADA entry for any facility, but it is required for training, as we have to deem the tasks appropriate and be able to train those tasks for that dog. And so we do require that. Also, airlines are going to require that, and also some forms of public transportation are also going to require something more than just saying that this is a service dog. And under ADA laws, that is appropriate, and they can do that. There are certain situations where they cannot, but there are certain things that are excluded from the ADA. Airlines and health, any kind of healthcare agency does not necessarily have to follow all of the ADA requirements if it has to do with public health or interferes with the services that they are providing. And so that's, again, where we kind of get into some of those gray areas, and we'll show you what to do with that, or if you've got any questions about that later as well. With that. And the other thing too is that churches and synagogues and religious establishments do not have to allow access of a service dog. While there are some very specific cases that where they can be asked to have to participate when it has to do with something like out in public, like trips and different things like that. But for services and entry into the building, they are not required under ADA to have to accommodate a service dog. In that situation, usually they're very willing to accommodate, and there's not a whole lot of issues there, but just kind of some things to consider. The other thing too is when we talk about as a public health risk, and so there's certain areas in hospitals and restaurants and also places where you work where service dogs are not permitted. And public pools is another area. So service dogs are not allowed to swim in public pools. They can be allowed on the deck, but they also do not have to be allowed in certain areas of other establishments, again, for health code purposes for that. Okay, so with that, those are just some considerations. So let's say you found a dog, you've talked to your doctor, and now you kind of just want to know where to start next. And so I'm going to do a quick screen share here, and I'm going to take you through some considerations here. Okay, so one of the other considerations that you're going to have with a dog is going to be the cost of owning a dog. This is outside of training. This is outside of anything to do with work, and also the cost of just feeding a dog and your veterinary care. And so I pulled this year's numbers just to kind of get an idea of that. So this was in 2020. They were saying that the average yearly cost of a dog is anywhere from $650 to $2,115 a year, with the average person spending about $1,000 a year on their dog. And so part of your responsibilities in owning a dog is going to be for their care. Now, under the VA, there is a program where they will pay for your veterinary care, but they do not pay for training. They do not pay for food. They do not pay for grooming. It's none of those things. And you have to show that you have completed training with an organization to be able to get that coverage for veterinary bills. The other thing is too, is that those are not up front. They're not going to pay you anything up front. You have to turn those in for reimbursement in that program. And so that can help kind of mitigate some of the cost of having a service dog. But there's just going to be some expenses with having a dog, right? And so then now let's go through the service dog training checklist. Okay, and so through Legend Acres program, we have an initial training program, and it consists of 4 classes. And so the first one is going to be fundamentals. And then at the end of that course, what we take is an AKC Star Puppy Test. And then we have basic obedience, which is our intermediate course. And that is the CGC. And then we have advanced obedience, that's the community canine. And then we have advanced urban, and that is the CGCU, which is the urban test. And then at this time, this is where we want to finalize that functional task list, because at this time, we're going to know what are the dog's abilities at this level, because now we've completed 4 6-week classes and we've passed 4 different standardized tests. So that way we have that third-party backing and verification of your dog is at this level. And then after that, then we take the public access test. That's a 2-hour test. And everything in this test is prepared for you in all of these courses. These courses are all meant to build on each other, and they build you in prep for this public access test. And then after that, then we do our task list training, and then we do airport training with this. Okay, so then this is just a quick list of what that is going to look like. Okay, and then we also do have a service dog training services agreement. And a lot of this is really just rights and responsibilities of you as the handler in the care of your dog. And then how to retire a dog. And it goes on into service dog identification, and that it is not required by the ADA, but we do ask that your service dogs are labeled in some way to not cause more attention to yourself. And also there's a lot of people out there who are misrepresenting service dogs. And so we just want to make sure that we're doing things in a way that makes your life easier. But on here, you can see the list. So grooming, if your dog is a dog that requires grooming, they're going to need to be groomed every 6 to 8 weeks. Your service dog's appearance they have to be clean and neat and free of mats and smells at all times when being out in public. There's also local licensing. You have veterinary care. And then you also have the training classes and equipment that are on there. And so just for some reference here, so here's the ADA. This is the most updated version of the ADA questions and answers. And this is just saying that while a prescription is not necessarily required, here there is a big difference between a therapy dog and a service dog, and that as trainers we can require that list because the ADA does not require service animals to be professionally trained. You can self-train your dog, but then there are going to be some limitations to that, as we are finding with airlines and where the ADA does not have jurisdiction here. And so I'm going to scroll down to those real quick, just because there's a lot of misinformation out there. And this is directly from that ADA site. And so right here is that do churches, so right here, churches, temples, synagogues, mosques, and other places of worship required to allow individuals to bring their service dog animals into a facility? And the answer is no. They are exempt from the ADA, but there may be some state laws that apply to religious organizations. Now, for housing and for staying in a hotel, there is they can charge you additional cost for that, but they cannot turn you away if they don't have dog-friendly rooms. That's one of the misconceptions there with that as well. And also that service dogs should not be placed onto seating in restaurants, bars. They are not permitted to be sitting at the table on booths. They are not permitted to be put into shopping carts. You can carry them on your chest in chest packs, or they have to walk on the floor. And then also down here, so the federal agencies also do not have to comply with ADA regulations. And so that may affect your service dog going with you to work. And so those are some things that you may need to navigate and some things to consider. And then also commercial airlines do not comply with the ADA. You have to prove that you have a service dog to be able to fly on a flight. And so that is where we come in as an independent training company. We provide you with those, with the paperwork and the contract. And also now you have our team of lawyers behind you when you do run into any issues and you need anything done, because now you have proof of training. And then real quick, under the service animals, there is only dogs are recognized as service animals under Titles 2 and 3 of the ADA. And so then this is also saying that dogs need to be trained properly and they need to perform tasks. And so with that also being self-trained, the dogs still have to be trained and under control. And you can be asked and removed from a facility if your dog is not house trained and is not under your control, and that is their legal right. Okay, so let's talk real quick about tasks. Some tasks here that you can consider. And so this is one of the task lists that we use. And so we use this list, and this is not an exclusive list, but we use this list because it helps us break things into categories here and look at what is going to be appropriate for your dog to do. So for example, in an assistance in a medical crisis, dog can be trained to retrieve a small canvas bag with medication from a specific location that he is schooled to go to get on command, such as the closet floor, bathroom vanity, or a shelf. And those kinds of things. Bring a beverage so that you can swallow medication. Bring the emergency phone during a crisis. Answer the doorbell. Call 911. There are special dog phones that we can train the dog to push the button to push 911. To bring help indoors. To provide speech impairment assistance. To summon help. Provide a balance and assistance on stairs. So that would be mobility. And so again, that dog would have to be 55 pounds or bigger. Assist a person to rise or steady, balance, an ambulatory partner. So let's go back to the ambulatory real quick there too. And so if there's not room in an ambulance, okay, then your service dog may not travel with you. If you are not ambulatory in the hospital and able to care for your service dog, the hospital has to make other arrangements for the dog to stay elsewhere. They will give you every opportunity to do what you can to try to keep the dog with you, such as if you have a third-party person that can come in and care for the dog. So that way the dog can still be with them. That is acceptable. But having a service dog means that you are the responsible party and that there is no other responsible party. And if you're unable to do, then they will have to make arrangements to board the dog while you're in the hospital if you don't have any family members that can help you with that. Let's just kind of move down here. Treatment-related assistance to medication reminders, coping with medication side effects, alert a sedated a partner in distress, wake a sedated partner, alerting to the doorbell, alerting to a partner or to a smoke alarm, assist to exit, and then dealing with emotional overload. A lot of what you hear for PTSD dogs are going to be provide tactile stimulation to disrupt the overload. And so there are a lot of different tasks that that can be done there. Waking for school or for work. Prevent emotional overload in the workplace, providing excuse to leave an upsetting situation. So the dog can be trained to bother you enough to make you leave the situation. Also to assist to leave the area by finding an exit, deep pressure for calming, crowd control, arousal from fear, paralysis, or a disassociation spell. Dog is trained to nudge. And to get the handler to respond. Then there's also some security enhancement tasks, such as coping with the fear of hidden intruders in the home or around the corner, and providing reality check of who's there. There's also strategies with portable phones, call for help, turning on a light in a dark room, assist with the escape strategies by opening the front door, and fear management in public. And so keeping strangers at bay, increase safety in public at ATM with equipment and teamwork. And again, this is not an exclusive list, but this just kind of gives you an idea of that. And for the recording of this webinar, you'll have access to these websites. And then I just want to jump over here to the Legend Acres website so I can talk a little bit more about how to get to the information on our service dog training. And so if you come to the main page right here, and if you scroll down and you click on the picture of Daisy here, who's in her beautiful hot pink service dog vest there, you can find the information on our training and what our program is all about. Okay, the first thing that we want you to do is schedule this phone consult right here, because there's some questions we want to ask. Do you have an appropriate dog? Are you still looking for a dog? Where are you at in this process, and what can we help you with there? Okay, and then moving down here to cost. And so how much does a service dog cost? So in the beginning, I talked about those traditional programs. In the traditional programs, they cost anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000. And again, it's sometimes between 2 to 3 years before you receive your service dog in those programs, as in a full-fledged service dog, like you have public access. With Legend Acres, with our program and taking those 4 courses, you can complete the program in under 2 years and for around $3,000. And I will tell you that you can do much less than the $3,000. We just put that there because let's say that you are working remotely and you're not comfortable with a group class, or you don't want to be in a group class, it's just not for you, then you can take these courses private, but the cost structure is going to be different for private classes versus group classes. And so we put in there anything that we could encounter having to do additional sessions for task training, etc. But with that, we have our Legends Heroes scholarship application. And so through Legends Heroes, we fundraise to be able to help you with the cost of these training classes. And so you can go right to our webpage and fill out the service dog scholarship and say which class how much you're requesting. And so you can request in $25 increments up to $75 per class, with a total of $150 per dog. At this time, that is our limit, just because of our small funding pool. As we do more fundraising, those amounts will go up and we will have more scholarship funding available. So then down here, you're also going to say what course you are signing up for as well. And then we are looking for how this scholarship is going to help you in meeting your goals on here as well. So I'm going to jump back over to the page here. And then, so again, there's just a little bit more information. Everything we do is positive reinforcement training. Again, we encourage you to schedule a phone consultation. I do want to make a note on here too, that if you do want to make a donation to the scholarship fund, or if you have family or friends that want to support you in your training, you can send them this link and they put in the amount here. And then they can reach out to us and let us know that it is for a specific team. And then this funding will go directly onto your account as well. And then we also are selling t-shirts as part of our Legends Heroes Scholarship Fund. And so you can go right onto our online store here and you can purchase a Legends Heroes t-shirt. They are a gray t-shirt with the Legends Heroes logo on there. And so they're $20. For a t-shirt, and we have t-shirts available in stock for pickup in Tennessee and in Arizona as well. And so if you want to help with funding, you can also do that there. So I'm going to jump back over to this checklist real quick here. And the only thing else I want to add on here is that this airport training is something that we did before COVID, and we are working really hard to get that set back up again. Now that some of the restrictions have been lifted, especially through TSA, so that what we do for the airport training is we set up a mock airport day where you pack your bags, you park in the parking lot, you go through security, and you're working in and around in the airport, finding the dog relief areas and getting comfortable and teaching your dogs that sometimes we just got to sit and wait, and to sit and wait patiently at the airport. It's really kind of a fun overall day when we do that airport training on there. And again, this task list training is going to happen after the public access test. And the reason is because we don't want to invest task training into a dog that can't pass the public access test. And so that's going to save you a whole lot of time and energy, and same for us on our end, a whole lot of time and energy. And so we do that task list training after that public access test. That's where we really get in and do those those tasks that have been recommended by your doctor. And if you're having issues with your doctor doesn't know where to start, what you can do then also is to have them reach out to us. We do have an example doctor's note that we can send them, and they can fill that out, and we can even be that go-between for you and the doctor's office to even find out what would be appropriate tasks, because they can tell us what category of care they're looking for, and then us knowing the dogs, we can help them by saying we feel that these tasks would be an appropriate fit for this dog for these situations. And then it's really up to them to kind of fine tune that and get in there. But that is something that we can definitely help you with. Okay, so I'm going to jump over here and see if there's any questions. Okay, well, it doesn't look like we have any questions. And so thank you so much for getting on here and watching. These webinars are going to start to becoming more frequent, where you can get on and ask questions. And that's what we encourage you to do, is to get on here and comment, ask questions, ask any questions that you have, ask the questions you don't know how to find the answers to, because that's what we're here for. We've spent a lot of time over the last 2 years developing our program and our contracts and working with our legal team. And I will tell you that there are going to be some changes coming, even through ADA, for requirements for training. And we are striving to be ahead of that and to be out in front of it. And that way that anything that you do now is going to be relevant for the future. And thank you so much for watching. And you can find us online at www.legend-acres.com. You can also find us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/legendacres. We're also on TikTok as Legend Acres, and Twitter and Instagram at Legend Acres. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone have a great rest of your day.